Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the human shuttle, watching the largest structure she had ever seen grow closer. The Nexus station was a city in space, a massive ring spinning slowly around a neutron star. Lights dotted its surface like a million fireflies frozen in metal and glass. This was where the Galactic Council met, where 847 different alien species came together to govern half the galaxy. Sarah took a deep breath. Her team had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Earth wanted to join the Council, to take its place among the stars. But first, they had to prove humanity was worthy. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. The airlock hissed open, and Sarah led her team into the station. The corridor beyond was enormous, built to accommodate species of all sizes. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish drifted past. Something with too many legs skittered along the wall. Sarah kept her face neutral, though her heart raced with excitement. Their guide was a tall, thin being with gray skin and 4 arms. It introduced itself as Velthar, a member of the archival species. Velthar's voice came from a translator device on its chest, speaking perfect English with a slight mechanical tone. "Welcome to Nexus Station, humans. The Council will see you shortly. Please, follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Through windows, Sarah saw hundreds of different ships docked at the station. Some were sleek and beautiful. Others looked like flying rocks. Each one represented a different world, a different way of thinking. Finally, they reached the council chamber. The doors opened to reveal a vast circular room. Tiered seating rose up on all sides, and hundreds of aliens sat watching. Some had eyes. Some did not. Some breathed air. Others floated in tanks of liquid. The diversity was overwhelming. At the center of the room was a raised platform. Velthar gestured for Sarah and her team to stand there. Lights focused on them, and Sarah felt like an insect under a microscope. A voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly into English. "The Galactic Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You seek membership among the civilized species of the galaxy. State your case." Sarah stepped forward. She had rehearsed this speech 1,000 times. "Honored council members, humanity comes before you in peace and friendship. We have achieved faster than light travel. We have left our home world and established colonies on 3 other planets in our system. We have created art, music, and literature. We have science and technology. We believe we are ready to join the greater galactic community." There was a long silence. Then, a creature that looked like a giant insect with crystal wings spoke. Its voice was sharp and clicking, even through the translator. "Humanity has existed for what? 10,000 years of civilization? The Zathari have ruled our worlds for 3 million years. You are children, infants who barely learned to crawl before trying to run." Another voice, this one deep and rumbling, came from a being made entirely of rock. "The humans only achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. Many species have forgotten more than humans have learned." Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice calm. "We may be young, but we learn quickly. We adapt. We solve problems. Give us a chance to prove ourselves." A pause. Then a different voice spoke, ancient and crystalline, like wind chimes made of glass. Sarah looked up to see a being of pure energy, contained in a lattice of shimmering crystal. This was the Keeper of Records, one of the oldest members of the Council. "Very well, humanity will be tested. Complete the standard trials, and we will consider your application. Velthar will show you to your quarters and explain the procedures." The platform beneath them began to lower. The audience of aliens watched them descend in silence. Some looked curious. Many looked dismissive. A few looked almost worried. Back in the corridor, Velthar led them to a residential section. "You will stay here during the testing period. The first trial begins tomorrow. You will be given a task to complete." The Council will evaluate your methods and results. Marcus Webb, the team's chief engineer, spoke up. What kind of task? That is revealed tomorrow. However, I can tell you that most species require between 2 and 4 weeks to complete it. You may use any resources in the testing facility. After Velthar left, the team gathered in their common room. Marcus let out a long breath. Well, that was intense. Did you see how they looked at us? Like we were cavemen at a technology convention. Dr. Lisa Park, their xenobiologist, nodded. 3 million years of civilization. Can you imagine? They've probably forgotten more technologies than we've ever invented. Sarah stared out the window at the stars. Maybe. But we didn't come all this way to fail. We'll show them what humans can do. Even if we're competing against species that have been doing this for millions of years? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled. Especially then. We might not have millions of years of history, but we have something they might have forgotten. What's that? Lisa asked. We remember what it's like to struggle, to improvise, to make things work with whatever we have on hand. Sarah turned to face her team. Tomorrow, we show them that being young doesn't mean being weak. It means being flexible, adaptive, creative. Marcus grinned. So we're going to out-engineer species that have been building things since Earth was still covered in dinosaurs? Exactly, Sarah said. Outside, the Nexus station continued its eternal spin around the neutron star. Somewhere in the council chamber, the keeper of records accessed files that were older than most stars. It reviewed what little information existed about humanity, the medical scans, the cultural data, the technological assessments. Something troubled the ancient being. Humanity's homeworld was classified as a Class 12 hazard zone. Their biology showed signs of extreme adaptation to danger. Their history was filled with conflict and innovation, born from desperation. The keeper of records made a note in humanity's file. A note that would not be seen for several more days. Recommend immediate full evaluation of human engineering methodology. Preliminary assessment suggests non-standard approach to problem solving. Potential paradigm deviation from established galactic norms. In simpler terms, the ancient being was worried. Humanity did not think like other species, and in the careful, ordered universe of the Galactic Council, that could be either wonderfully useful or terribly dangerous. The keeper suspected it might be both. The testing bay was enormous, large enough to fit 3 football fields inside. At its center sat a derelict spacecraft, dark and broken. Scorch marks covered its hull, and several panels hung loose. To Sarah and her team, it looked like it had been through a war. Velthar stood beside them, all 4 arms folded. This is a standard repair challenge. The ship has 17 critical system failures. You must repair at least 15 to pass. You have access to the materials in the storage units along the walls. Most species complete this test in 3 to 4 weeks. Marcus circled the ship slowly, his eyes scanning every detail. He pulled out a small tablet and started taking notes. What's the catch? Catch? Velthar's translator made the word sound confused. There's always a catch, Marcus said. Limited resources? Time pressure? Incompatible parts? The only limitation is your skill and knowledge. The storage units contain standard repair materials used throughout the galaxy. Any civilized species should be able to use them. Sarah nodded. We'd like to begin. Velthar gestured with one arm. Very well. I will observe and record your methods. The Council wishes to understand how humanity approaches complex problems. The alien moved to a corner of the bay and simply stood there, watching. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus walked around the ship, occasionally tapping on panels or peering into damaged sections. He made notes. He muttered to himself. Sarah and Lisa followed, letting him work. Marcus was the best engineer on Earth. And if anyone could figure this out, he could. Finally, Marcus stopped and looked up at the massive ship. Okay, I think I've got it. Already? Lisa asked. You know how to fix it? Most of it, yeah. The power coupling is fried. The navigation computer is dead. The life support is disconnected in 6 places. The hull breach in Section 7 needs sealing. The stabilizers are offline. It's actually not that complicated. Just a lot of small problems all at once. Sarah raised an eyebrow. And you can fix all that? Marcus grinned. Sure. But first, I need some supplies. Velthar, can you get me duct tape, zip ties, and a hammer? The alien was silent for a long moment. I do not understand these terms. Right, sorry. Duct tape is a strong adhesive strip, really sticky on one side. Zip ties are plastic loops that you can tighten but not loosen. And a hammer is, well, a hammer. Heavy thing for hitting stuff. Velthar's translator made a sound like static. You wish to use adhesive strips and strike the ship. To repair it? Render. To repair it. Yeah. Oh, and some WD-40 if you have it. These items are not standard repair materials. Marcus shrugged. Can you synthesize them? I can give you the exact specifications. 20 minutes later, Marcus had his supplies. Velthar had watched in what might have been confusion as the fabrication unit created these strange human tools. The duct tape looked primitive compared to the nano-bonding materials used by galactic engineers. The zip ties seemed laughably simple. The hammer was just a heavy metal object on a stick. Marcus picked up the roll of duct tape and smiled like a child on Christmas morning. Perfect. Okay, let's get to work. What happened next would be discussed in council chambers for years to come. Marcus approached the power coupling first. In standard galactic engineering, this would require carefully removing the damaged components, fabricating exact replacements, and installing them with precision tools. The process typically took 3 days. Marcus looked at the damaged coupling, then wrapped duct tape around it in several layers. He used zip ties to secure loose wires. Then he picked up the hammer and hit the coupling 3 times. Hard. The coupling hummed to life. Velthar made a sound that the translator did not even attempt to convert. Percussive maintenance, Marcus explained cheerfully. Sometimes things just need a good whack to start working again. He moved to the navigation computer next. This was more delicate work. But Marcus still used methods that made Velthar's forearms twitch with distress. He sprayed WD-40 into jammed components. He used duct tape to hold a cracked circuit board together. He bypassed 3 burned-out systems entirely by wiring around them. That is not. You cannot. Velthar seemed unable to form complete thoughts. Sure I can, Marcus said. Look, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to work. This ship isn't going into combat or anything, right? It just needs to prove we can fix it. But the engineering standards, the safety protocols, are probably very good for normal situations, Sarah said, stepping in. But Marcus is right. Sometimes good enough is better than perfect, especially if perfect takes 4 weeks, and good enough takes 4 hours. Marcus continued working. The life support system was reconnected using zip ties and duct tape to secure loose hoses. The hull breach was covered with a metal plate that Marcus literally taped in place, then sealed with a compound from the storage unit. The stabilizers required more actual engineering, but even there, Marcus cut corners that would make any traditional engineer faint. 3 hours after he started, Marcus stepped back and wiped his hands. Done. Fire it up, and let's see what happens. Velthar seemed frozen. You have completed the trial? 15 systems, right? I fixed 16. The 17th one looked fine to me. Just needed a software reboot. The alien moved to a control panel and activated the ship. Lights flickered on throughout the hull. The engines hummed. Life support fans began spinning. Navigation systems displayed green status indicators. Every single system Marcus had touched was now functioning. This is not possible, Velthar said quietly. The Zathari lead engineer spent 2 weeks on this same test. The Vex-Lar team required 19 days. You are using primitive adhesive materials and hitting things with heavy objects. Marcus patted the ship's hull affectionately. If it's stupid but it works, it ain't stupid. But this violates every principle of proper engineering. The tolerances are not precise. The materials are not rated for spacecraft use. The methods are not documented in any engineering database. Sarah crossed her arms. But, does it work? Velthar looked at the functioning ship, then at the humans, then back at the ship. Yes, it works. I do not understand how or why, but it works. Then we pass the test, right? I must report this to the council immediately. What you have done should not be possible. Please remain here. NE7. Velthar hurried out of the testing bay, moving faster than the humans had seen before. As soon as the alien was gone, Lisa started laughing. Oh my God. Did you see its face? Well, I think it has a face. Did you see its reaction? Marcus was grinning. I don't think they've ever seen someone fix a spaceship with duct tape before. Because it's insane, Lisa said, still laughing. It's absolutely insane. We just passed a test designed to take weeks using office supplies and a hammer. Sarah smiled, but her eyes were thoughtful. We showed them what human engineering looks like. Practical. Fast. Effective. We don't have millions of years of refined techniques, so we improvise. Do you think they'll be impressed? Lisa asked. Sarah looked at the ship, still running perfectly despite being held together with tape and determination. I think we just scared them. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad. In the council chamber, alarms were beginning to sound. Not danger alarms, but alerts that something unusual had occurred. The Keeper of Records received Veltar's report and immediately called an emergency session. The test that was supposed to take weeks had been completed in 3 hours, using methods that broke every established engineering principle. The humans had not just passed the trial, they had shattered every assumption about how problems should be solved. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity did not play by anyone's rules but their own. The council chamber was in chaos. At least, what counted as chaos for a governing body that had maintained order for 200,000 years? Delegates were speaking over each other, their translators creating a storm of overlapping voices. The Zathari-led engineer stood in the center, its crystal wings vibrating with agitation. They used adhesive strips, simple adhesive strips to repair a power coupling that should require molecular bonding technology. This is madness. Lest, a Vex-Lar economist, whose species looked like floating orbs of silver liquid, spoke next. We must understand their methods. I request a full cultural exchange. We need to study how humans think. The Keeper of Records, still and silent in its crystalline lattice, finally spoke. Approved. Let the exchange begin. 3 days later, Sarah and her team sat in a conference room with representatives from 6 different species. The room had been adjusted for human atmosphere and gravity, though the furniture was still oddly shaped. A Zorathian, who resembled a small, furry bear with 6 eyes, spoke first. We wish to understand human technology development. Please explain your innovation process. Marcus pulled out his tablet. Sure. So, humans have this thing where we share a lot of our technology openly. We call it open source. Anyone can use it, modify it, improve it, and share those improvements. The room went silent. The Zorathian's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. You give away your technology? For free? Well, yeah. I mean, not everything. But a lot of stuff. Especially software and basic designs. The idea is that if everyone can see how something works, everyone can make it better. The Zorathian turned to its colleagues. This is unprecedented. In Zorathian law, all technology is proprietary. Sharing designs is considered economic sabotage. A Vexlar, the same economist from the council session, rippled with what might have been distress. Lisa jumped in. We do compete, but we also cooperate. Some companies keep secrets, sure, but a lot of human progress comes from people working together, sharing ideas. One person makes something good, another person makes it better. A third person finds a new use for it. This is illogical, the Vexlar said. It violates basic economic principles. Sarah shrugged. Maybe. But it works for us. Humans are pretty good at doing things that seem illogical, but get results. The questions continued for hours. The aliens wanted to know about human manufacturing, and they were horrified to learn about planned obsolescence. The concept that humans deliberately made products that would break after a certain time, so people would buy new ones, caused the Vexlar economist to float in confused circles for 10 minutes. But this is wasteful, inefficient. Why not make products that last forever? Because then nobody buys new ones, Marcus explained. It's kind of terrible, actually. A lot of humans don't like it either. But that's how some of our economy works. The next topic was human safety standards. Lisa made the mistake of showing them videos of extreme sports. Skydiving, base jumping, free climbing, motorcycle racing. The alien representing the Council's Safety Oversight Committee, a being that looked like a walking tree with glowing sap, watched the videos in silence. Then it spoke in a voice like creaking wood. These humans are deliberately throwing themselves from high places for entertainment? Yeah, it's fun, Lisa said. Adrenaline? Oh, it's a chemical our bodies make when we're scared or excited. Makes us feel alive. The tree being's branches drooped. You seek fear for recreation? Marcus grinned. Some of us do. There's a human saying, hold my beer. It basically means, watch me do something really stupid and dangerous. The safety oversight representative filed 47,000 incident reports in the next hour, one for each extreme sport video they watched. It was the most reports filed in galactic history for events that had already happened. Then came the cultural exchange that would nearly break the galactic internet. Sarah was trying to explain human humor when Lisa pulled up an image on her tablet. It was a simple comic, 4 panels, called Loss. This is a meme, Lisa explained. It's a joke that spreads through our culture. This particular one is about, well, it's complicated. It's funny because it's everywhere, and people keep making new versions of it. The aliens stared at the image. They analyzed it. They ran it through cultural databases. They spent 3 weeks trying to understand why 4 panels showing a man in a hospital were supposed to be funny. Scholars wrote papers about it. The image was shared across the galactic network, and within days, thousands of species were arguing about its meaning. The galactic internet nearly crashed from the traffic. But the real shock came during the medical examination. Dr. Zix Anil, the Council's chief medical officer, was a blob-like creature with dozens of sensory tentacles. It had been studying human biology for days, and now it called an emergency medical session. Sarah and her team were brought to a medical bay, where representatives from the medical community had gathered. Dr. Zix Anil's tentacles waved in agitation. I must ask you humans several questions, and I need you to answer honestly. Is Earth truly your home world? 2 down. Sarah blinked. Yes. Of course. And humans evolved there naturally? You were not transplanted from another world? As far as we know, yes. We evolved on Earth over millions of years. The tentacles writhed faster. This is deeply concerning. Earth is classified as a Class 12 hazard zone. The gravity is extreme. The atmosphere is highly reactive. The native life forms are aggressive. The weather systems are violent. The tectonic activity is dangerous. No civilized species chooses to live on such worlds. Marcus looked confused. Wait. You think Earth is dangerous? Dangerous. It is a death world. And yet you show no signs of environmental stress. In fact, You seem to prefer these conditions. Well, yeah. It's home. Dr. Zixanol pulled up displays showing human biology. Your species consumes poison for recreation. This substance, ethanol, should kill you. Yet you drink it, for pleasure. That's just alcohol, Lisa said. Okay, yeah. It's technically a poison. But in small amounts it's fun. Fun? And this? Caffeine. A stimulant that affects your neural chemistry. You consume it daily? Coffee. Yeah. Can't start the day without it. And this? Capsaicin. A compound that activates pain receptors. You put it on your food? Spicy food is delicious, Marcus said defensively. The medical bay was silent. Dr. Zixanol's tentacles drooped. You are a species that evolved on a death world, that consumes poisons for pleasure, and that deliberately causes yourselves pain for entertainment. Your immune system is in a constant state of warfare with microscopic invaders. Your body temperature would cause heat damage to most species. Your atmospheric pressure would crush beings from low-gravity worlds. A small, rabbit-like alien in the corner spoke up nervously. Doctor, you have not told them the worst part. Worst part? Sarah asked. Dr. Zixanol turned several screens toward the humans. They showed a video. Something from Earth's nature documentaries. A human hunter. Running. The prey, exhausted, finally collapsing. The human, barely tired, catching up. You are persistence hunters, Doctor, Zixanol said quietly. You chase prey until it dies of exhaustion. You do not need to be faster or stronger. You simply never stop. You just keep coming. The rabbit-like alien was trembling. Sarah looked at her team, then back at the assembled aliens. Okay, so we're a bit tough, but we're not dangerous. We're friendly. You are predators from a death world who laugh in the face of danger and think falling from the sky is entertainment, Doctor, Zixanol said. The Jax Uri representative has called for Earth to be quarantined. The rabbit-like alien nodded frantically. Marcus stood up. Now wait just a minute. Yeah, we're tough. Yeah, Earth is rough. But that doesn't make us monsters. We're here because we want to join the galactic community. We want to be friends. Friends, the Jaxuri squeaked. Friends who chase their food until it dies of exhaustion. Sarah sighed. This was not going well. They had come to the stars hoping to find acceptance, and instead, they were being treated like dangerous animals, all because humans had adapted to survive on a planet that, apparently, the rest of the galaxy considered uninhabitable. The Keeper of Records appeared in the doorway, its crystalline form casting rainbow light across the room. Enough. Fear will not help us understand humanity. Yes, they are unusual. Yes, they are from a dangerous world. But they are here. And they are intelligent. And they deserve a fair chance. But surely you see the risk, Dr. Zixanol said. I see a species that survived impossible odds. I see beings who solve problems in ways we never imagined. I see potential. The Keeper paused, and I see that judging them by their biology alone is unfair. Let their actions speak for them. Sarah nodded gratefully at the ancient being, but outside the medical bay, a new alert was flashing across council networks. The Devourer swarm, an ancient threat from beyond the galaxy, had been detected at the outer rim. The crisis that would test humanity had begun. The council chamber was filled with a tension that Sarah had never felt before. Every delegate was present, even species that normally sent holographic representatives. The Keeper of Records floated at the center, and for the first time since humanity had arrived, the ancient being seemed troubled. The Devourer swarm has breached the galactic barrier, the Keeper announced. Long-range sensors detected them 3 hours ago. They are heading toward the outer colonies. Population in their path. Approximately 40 billion lives. A holographic display appeared above the chamber, showing a section of space. Red dots moved across it like a spreading disease, each dot representing hundreds of swarm ships. The scale was terrifying. Sarah leaned toward Velthar, who stood nearby. The four-armed alien's voice was quiet. Ancient enemy. They come from between galaxies. No one knows where they originate, or what they want. They consume resources, technology, even living beings. They learn from everything they encounter. The last time they appeared was 8,000 years ago. It took 2 centuries to push them back. Billions died. And they're back now? Yes. And they are worse than before. They have adapted to every weapon we used against them last time. The Zathari lead engineer was speaking, its crystal wings reflecting the red light from the display. We have mobilized the fleet. 3,000 warships are moving to intercept. We will implement the standard defense protocols from the historical database. Another delegate, a being of living stone, added, the swarm adapts, but slowly. If we rotate our weapon frequencies and tactics every 3 days, we can stay ahead of their learning curve. This is what worked before. Sarah watched the presentation. It was all very organized, very systematic. The council had clearly done this before. They had plans, backups, contingencies. Everything was calculated based on historical data and probability models. It was also, she realized, probably going to fail. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah and her team watched the war unfold through reports and news feeds. The Council's fleet engaged the swarm at the border of the outer colonies. The first battles went well. The second wave of attacks showed promising results. By the 3rd week, the projections were optimistic. Then the swarm adapted. They learned faster than the historical models predicted. They countered every weapon, every tactic, every strategy. The carefully planned rotation of techniques meant nothing. The swarm was already adapting to weapons that had not even been used yet, somehow predicting what the Council would do based on their own predictable patterns. By week 4, the fleet had lost 800 ships. The swarm had advanced 3 sectors. The death toll was climbing into the millions. Emergency sessions were called daily. The mood in the Council grew darker. Delegates who had seemed confident now spoke in hushed tones. The historical database, the source of all their strategic planning, was useless. The swarm was not following the old patterns. Sarah sat in the gallery, watching the council debate. They were trying the same things over and over, just with minor variations. They could not seem to break away from their established methods, even though those methods were clearly failing. They're losing, Marcus whispered beside her. Yeah, Sarah agreed. They're fighting the last war, not this one. On day 32, the supreme commander of the council fleet, a massive being that looked like an armored whale, made an announcement that sent shock through the chamber. We are losing. Our projections show complete breakthrough of the defensive line in 45 days. The swarm will reach core worlds in 90 days. We have exhausted our strategic database. We need new approaches. Unconventional approaches. The chamber erupted in debate. Unconventional was not a word the council used often. The keeper of records glowed brighter. We have a species among us that specializes in unconventional approaches. Perhaps it is time to ask them. All eyes, and various sensory organs, turned to the human gallery. Velthar came to get them an hour later. They were brought to a military command center deep in the station. Holographic displays showed the battle zone from every angle. Officers from a dozen species worked at stations, coordinating the fleet. The Supreme Commander turned to face them. Its voice was deep enough to vibrate in Sarah's chest. Humans, you have demonstrated unusual thinking. We need unusual thinking now. Can you help? Sarah looked at the displays. At the spreading red tide of swarm ships. At the blue dots representing the council fleet, falling back slowly but steadily. She thought about everything they had seen in the past weeks. The rigid planning, the historical dependence, the inability to adapt quickly. Tell me something, Sarah said. Do you always fight wars the same way? We use proven strategies from our historical database, 200,000 years of military knowledge. That's the problem, Marcus said. You're predictable. The swarm knows what you're going to do because you always do the same things. You're not fighting a war. You're following a script. The Supreme Commander's massive head tilted. You are saying our strategies are wrong? Not wrong, Sarah said carefully. Just too predictable. The swarm adapts by learning patterns. You keep giving it patterns to learn. What you need is chaos. Chaos is the opposite of strategy. Exactly, Marcus grinned. You need to do things that make no sense, things that cannot be predicted because they are not based on logic or historical precedent. A smaller officer, something with tentacles and too many eyes, spoke up nervously. This is madness. War requires planning, order, coordination. Sure, Sarah agreed. But it also requires winning. Right now, you are losing because you are too organized. The swarm can read you like a book. Stop being readable. The Supreme Commander was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke. What do you propose? Marcus pulled up his tablet and started typing. Give me command of a small fleet. Just 5 ships. Let me try something. Try what? Something stupid. Something that should not work. Something the swarm will never expect. Because no rational species would ever do it. The Supreme Commander looked at the Keeper of Records, who had joined them, the ancient being pulsed with light. We are losing by following reason. Perhaps it is time to try unreason. Let them attempt their plan. I'm unsee. I'm unsee. I'm unsee. I'm unsee. I'm unsee. 4 hours later, Marcus sat in the command chair of a small human-designed ship. It was not the most advanced vessel in the fleet, but it was fast, and it could take a beating. Behind him were 4 other ships, each commanded by a human volunteer from various Earth colonies. The Council fleet watched as the 5 human ships approached the swarm line. They were broadcasting on open channels, which was insane. Then they did something that made every military analyst in the Council question their sanity. They played music. Loud music. A human song with a distinctive rhythm that started with what humans called a rickroll. The song played on every frequency, drowning out communications, filling the void with sound. The swarm ships turned toward the noise, trying to analyze it. Clearly, this was some kind of weapon, some new technology. They focused their sensors on the human ships, devoting processing power to understanding this strange attack. The human ships flew closer and closer. Just before the swarm could fire, all 5 ships exploded. Not from damage. They self-destructed, but they did not explode into fire and debris. They exploded into glitter. Millions of tiny reflective particles, spreading in clouds throughout the battlefield. The swarm sensors, which worked on multiple spectrums, were suddenly overwhelmed by reflections and false readings. And while the swarm was blind, the Council fleet struck from a different angle, destroying 12 swarm ships before they could adapt. In the command center, the officers were stunned into silence. The Supreme Commander finally spoke. Did they just sacrifice 5 ships to spread reflective particles while playing primitive music? Yes, Sarah said calmly. And it worked. The swarm was analyzing the music, trying to find meaning in it. They thought it was a message or a weapon. By the time they realized it was just noise, it was too late. Over the next week, humanity introduced warfare tactics that would give military historians nightmares for generations. Decoy ships that did nothing but broadcast memes and jokes, forcing the swarm to waste processing power trying to find hidden meanings. Drones programmed to fly in chaotic patterns that followed no mathematical formula because they were controlled by humans playing video games remotely, treating it like entertainment. Weapons that should not work but did, like kinetic impactors that were just big chunks of metal launched at high speed. No guidance systems, no fancy technology, just mass times velocity equals force. Simple physics that the swarm kept trying to analyze for hidden complexity that did not exist. And then there was ramming speed. A human captain, facing 3 swarm ships with a damaged vessel, made a decision that would become legend. Instead of retreating, he aimed his ship directly at the largest swarm vessel and maxed out his engines. "This is Foxtrot 7, he broadcast to the fleet. "I'm out of ammo and out of options. But I've still got mass and velocity. Let's see how they adapt to this." Ramming speed, the ship plowed into the swarm vessel at a significant fraction of light speed. Both ships were destroyed instantly. The explosion took out the other two swarm ships. It should not have worked. It was a suicide run, trading one ship for three. But it broke the pattern. It was unpredictable. It showed that humans would do things that no calculation could predict. The swarm began to hesitate. For the first time in its existence, it faced an enemy that it could not read. Humans did things that made no sense. They sacrificed valuable resources for no tactical gain. They used weapons that were primitive but effective. They laughed while flying into danger. The swarm's greatest strength was adaptation through learning. But you cannot learn from chaos. You cannot predict the unpredictable. After 6 weeks of human-influenced tactics, the swarm began to retreat. Not because it was defeated, but because it could not calculate a winning strategy. Every model it built was broken by humans doing something that should not work but somehow did. In the command center, the Supreme Commander watched the red dots pull back from the galactic barrier. The Council fleet had lost only 300 ships total, compared to the projected losses of thousands. The massive being turned to Sarah. "You saved billions of lives with your chaos." Sarah smiled tiredly. "Sometimes the best strategy is not having a strategy, just figuring it out as you go along. This should not work." "Yeah," Marcus said, joining them. "But it did. Welcome to humanity." The council chamber was full again, but the atmosphere was different. Less formal, less rigid. Delegates who used to sit in perfect rows now gathered in small groups, talking animatedly. The gallery was packed with observers from across the galaxy, all wanting to witness this historic moment. Sarah stood in the center platform with her team. They had been here before, months ago, as applicants hoping to prove humanity's worth. Now they were here for the final vote on Earth's membership. The Keeper of Records hovered above them, its crystalline form casting rainbow patterns across the chamber. "The Council has reviewed humanity's application. We have observed their methods. We have witnessed their actions during the swarm crisis. Now, we must vote." The Zathari lead engineer was the first to speak. Its crystal wings were still, a sign of serious thought. "I objected to humanity from the beginning. I called them primitives. I was wrong. They fixed a ship with adhesive strips and impacts. It should not have worked, but it did. They do not follow our rules because they make their own rules. And sometimes, their rules are better than ours." A murmur went through the chamber. The Zathari were the greatest engineers in the galaxy. For them to admit that humanity had something to teach them was unprecedented. The Vexlar economist spoke next, its liquid form rippling. "Humanity's economic practices are chaos. Sharing technology freely? Planned obsolescence? Open source development? None of it follows established economic theory. And yet their economy functions. They innovate faster than species with millions more years of development. I vote yes, but I do not understand them. Ride. After. And. Ride. Ride. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Even the translator devices seemed to struggle with the concept that humor was now appropriate in council proceedings. The humans were already changing the culture of galactic government. Dr. Zixanol, the medical officer, waved its tentacles in what might have been resignation. "Humans are from a death world. They consume poisons for fun. They are persistence predators who will chase their goals until exhaustion. They should terrify us." The tentacles paused. "But in the war, they saved us." They were fierce. Yes, but they were fierce on our behalf. The Jax Uri called for quarantine of Earth. Now, the Jax Uri thank the humans for protecting their colonies. Fear should not guide our decisions. I vote yes. This peas. The rabbit-like Jax Uri stood up, still looking nervous but determined. Humans are scary. But good scary. Like having a dangerous friend who protects you. Yes. From me. More voices joined in. Species after species stood to speak. Some praised human innovation. Others admitted they did not understand humanity, but wanted to learn from them. A few were still skeptical, but even they acknowledged that humanity had earned their place. Finally, the Supreme Commander of the Council Fleet rose. Its massive form dominated one entire section of the chamber. Humans taught us that chaos has value, that sometimes the best plan is no plan. That adaptation means breaking rules, not just following them better. In 200,000 years of records, no species has altered our military doctrine as much as humanity did in 6 weeks. They saved 40 billion lives by doing things that made no sense. The whale-like being's voice carried weight across the chamber. I vote yes, and I request that humanity establish a military training program to teach other species their methods. Sarah caught Marcus's eye. He was grinning. Lisa was trying not to laugh. The keeper of records glowed brighter. The vote is called. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership? Lights appeared across the chamber as delegates registered their votes. Green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstain. The chamber flooded with green light. 792 votes in favor, 23 opposed, 32 abstaining. The motion passes. The keeper announced. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in sound. Cheering, clicking, humming, and various other expressions of approval from hundreds of species. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. They had done it. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. But the keeper was not finished. Additionally, humanity is granted a special designation. From this day forward, humans shall serve as the Council's reality optional engineering specialists and crisis resolution consultants. Marcus leaned toward Sarah. Did they just call us the Chaos Department? I think they did, Sarah whispered back, smiling. The celebration lasted for hours. Delegates who had once looked at humans with suspicion now wanted to talk, to share stories, to understand. Velthar approached with what might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell with its alien features. Congratulations, Commander Chen. You have changed the galaxy more in 3 months than most species do in millennia. We just did what humans do, Sarah said. We improvised. Yes. And now others will learn to improvise too. The Council has already received 17 requests for human advisors on various projects. The Zathari want to study your duct tape. The Vexlar want to understand open-source development. The military wants you to teach chaos tactics to other species. Lisa laughed. We're going to break this nice, orderly galaxy. Aren't we? Velthar's forearms spread in what might have been a shrug. It was already breaking. You just helped it break in a useful direction. A week later, humanity submitted its first official proposal to the Council. Sarah stood before a smaller committee meeting and presented it on her tablet. Humanity proposes the introduction of 2 concepts to galactic workspace culture. First, Casual Friday, where workers are allowed to dress more comfortably 1 day per week. Second, coffee breaks, short rest periods during work shifts. The committee members looked at each other in confusion. A Zarathian delegate spoke up. These concepts serve what purpose? They make people happier and more productive, Marcus explained. Comfort and short breaks help prevent burnout. But they reduce work hours. They decrease efficiency. Actually, they increase efficiency, Lisa said. Happy workers work better. We have studies. The committee debated for an hour. They analyzed the data. They reviewed human productivity reports. They discussed the implications. Finally, they voted. The proposal was denied. Humanity implemented it anyway. Within a month, workers across the galaxy were asking their employers why humans got casual Fridays, and they did not. Coffee breaks became popular among species who did not even drink coffee. Some aliens started wearing what they considered casual clothing, just to see what it felt like. The committee called Sarah back. "You were told the proposal was denied." "Yes, we heard that," Sarah said cheerfully. "But see, the thing about humans is we often do things just because they seem like a good idea, regardless of whether we have official permission. This is not proper procedure. Probably not. But people like it. Check your productivity numbers. They're up across the board." The committee checked. Productivity was indeed up. Worker satisfaction surveys showed improvement. Even species that had never heard of coffee were reporting better morale. The committee was silent for a long moment. Then one of them spoke. "Humans are going to be a constant source of unauthorized changes." "Are they not?" "Almost certainly," Sarah agreed. "And you will continue to do things that technically violate procedure, but achieve positive results? That's pretty much our specialty." "Yes." Another long silence. Then, impossibly, something that might have been laughter. "Very well. Casual Friday is officially approved, as are coffee breaks. But please try to at least inform us before you revolutionize other aspects of galactic culture." "No promises," Marcus said with a grin. 5 years passed. The Nexus station had changed. Coffee shops appeared in corridors that once held only formal meeting spaces. The dress code was more relaxed. Laughter was no longer rare in council chambers. The rigid formality that had defined galactic government for millennia was slowly giving way to something more flexible, more human. The Galactic Council had reluctantly adopted 17 human innovations. Duct tape was now produced in bulk and distributed to every council facility, officially called Universal Adherence Matrix Strips, though everyone called it duct tape. The phrase, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" had solved 34% of all technical issues reported to help desks. Emergency pizza parties were now standard procedure for teams working overtime. The galaxy was more chaotic than it had been in recorded history. It was also more innovative, more adaptive, and more resilient. When new challenges arose, the Council no longer relied solely on historical databases. They asked, what would humans do? And then, they did something equally crazy. Sarah, now officially the ambassador of Earth to the Galactic Council, stood in the observation deck of the human embassy. It was a new building, constructed in the past year, with architecture that blended Earth and alien aesthetics. Through the windows, she could see ships from 1,000 worlds docked at Nexus Station. Marcus joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Just reflecting. Remember when we first got here? The Jathari called us primitives. The Council thought we were too young to contribute anything meaningful, and now they can't function without asking us to break something they think is unbreakable." Sarah smiled. "We changed them, not by being smarter or more advanced, just by being willing to try things that seem impossible. And by using duct tape," Marcus added. "And by using duct tape," Sarah agreed. Velthar approached, now serving as the official liaison between the Council and humanity. "Ambassador Chen, the Council requests your presence. They have a new crisis situation." End quote. "What kind of crisis?" "A Class 7 reactor in the mining colonies is malfunctioning. It would normally require 6 months of careful repairs. They want to know if humans can fix it faster." Marcus was already grinning. "Do we have duct tape? I will ensure supplies are available." "Then tell them 3 days. Maybe 4 if it's really broken." Velthar's forearms moved in what was now recognized as the alien equivalent of a resigned shrug. "I will inform them, though they still do not understand how adhesive strips and improvisation can replace proper engineering." "They will," Sarah said. "Eventually. Humans, have patience." Humans have chaos, Velthar corrected. But it is useful chaos. As they walked toward the council chamber, Sarah thought about how far they had come. Earth had joined the galactic community not by matching the achievements of ancient civilizations, but by showing those civilizations that age and experience were not the only paths to success. Sometimes wisdom came from youth. Sometimes the best solution was the one that broke all the rules. Sometimes the most advanced technology was just duct tape and determination. The galaxy was still learning to be comfortable with humanity's presence. They might never fully understand why humans did things the way they did, but they had learned to trust that human methods, however strange, somehow worked. And in a universe that had become too rigid, too predictable, too bound by ancient tradition, humanity's chaos was exactly what was needed. The Council still did not know if humanity was a blessing or a curse. Most days, it was definitely both, and the galaxy was better for it.